A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I am Akasha Khan and we all are here in the favor of democracy. We think that democracy is the best form of government. As we can see that democracy is derived from a Greek word in which demos means people and kratia means power. We can see that in democracy the power is in the hands of people and they can choose what they want for themselves.
A very good afternoon everyone. I am Suhani Pandey and I am in favor of monarchical form of government. Monarchy is that form of government in which the permanent head of the state is the king or the queen itself. He or she rules until the succession of another monarch. Everyone observes that monarchical form of government is more stable as compared to democracy and it gives long-term productivity to the nation.
As you know, the monarchy continues by the monarch, but it can be changed only after a long time. But in democracy, the rulers can be changed by the citizens by having equal powers to elect the representatives, which only happens after a particular time. And monarchy doesn't lead to stability as you told, which doesn't maintain productivity as well.
Yes, and in monarchy system, there are what chances that the next ruler is the good for that post. If the father is good, then what chances that son is also good for that post. Like Aurangzeb is good. Aurangzeb when died, among his family relatives, they are fighting for the next ruler.
The monarchy is well organized, brigade and smart decision with the skilled minister, and it may clarify the way to improve the economic and the financial structure of the country, ultimately make the government stronger. So there is no scope for the bad decision.
As maintained democracy, the power and the money is equally divided amongst each level, whereas in monarchy, the power and money is only concentrated at a singular point, which is to the king or the queen who is ruling the country, which can lead to many bad decisions being taken by them.
But we can say that when democracy heads election, a lot of money is wasted for campaigns and electoral politics. This doesn't mean that monarchy is wasting money. Monarchy is just contributing towards the development of a country, and it is not always necessary that monarchy just waste the money. It's a cheaper form of government.
As Michael said that they doesn't waste money, but in democratic country they maintain a budget related to the country. They decide the resources as well and according to the importance as well. They doesn't waste of money in democratic country, but they tries to understand the requirement of the citizens as well.
It is not always necessary that all the representatives must keep in mind the demands of their citizens, whereas a monarch gives a chance to its citizens to work for themselves and they contribute towards the development of their nation and economy.
Through budget, resources are being compiled by the king, and thus the budget is also made in the monarch. After the making of budget, the resources are being contributed together and the development of a particular country has been taken.
Just as Aditya said, I would like to say that in monarchy, the power is not distributed among smaller levels. There are the representatives of the kings, but they are on a smaller level. Whereas in democracy, the power is shared among many levels, just as even in the villages it is shared. So there are less chances of the corruption. Whereas in monarchy, the power is not at the smaller levels, where it creates a bureaucratic system where there are much tax taken from that.
In ancient times, people were discriminated on the basis of religion. Monarch used to expand his own religion, and in many parts of the world, there were forced religious conversion.
As Akasha said that in monarchy there is no representation of people, but as we can observe that in modern monarchy, constitution is made which can control the power of king, and also the king has the ministers who who are given the sectors, and all the ministers directly contact and communicate with the people and be ready to solve their demands. So there is a proper representation of the people indirectly to the king.
In democracy, there is a feature called coalition government. In coalition government, there are two or more parties that contributes to make one single party. These representatives, the representatives are different and they have different opinions, different ideas and different mindset, which leads to delay in decision making, and they have disputes among themselves that cannot be resolved by the citizens. So this can lead to delay in the development of the country as well.
As we discussed that in democracy, if there are two governments, there are many collisions among the people in the government, and the development is delayed. But due to that delay and the collisions, there are less chances that there will be any mistakes made, because if there are more minds thinking on a single particular topic, there are more chances that at least someone will be able to find a mistake or maybe able to improve that particular thing, so that everyone will get what they desire, and there will be less chances. But whereas in monarchy, the king decides what he wants and what will be the best. He does not take in consider what his citizens really want. He does not take any suggestions as per citizens. So there can be many cases in which the monarch was wrong and his citizens were angry with them because of their many wrong decisions.
So the most important thing, democracy is accountable of its selection and decisions, and the most important that it reduces conflicts among the citizens and equality rules.
As Abhishek said that in monarch the king only listened to himself and make the decision accordingly. But I want to say that it is a totally myth that the king only worked according to himself. The thing was that after the decision-making process, the king asked their own main ministers that helped them to discuss about the problems that the crisis held in the country, and they worked on it as well.
And also there was a discussion about that in coalition government, delays are okay, but the development is not stopped. But we can observe from the modern history of India that Janata Party and other parties collided together, and due to that, for the 4 years tenure, there was no considerable development in the whole country. So we can observe that due to that collision, the development has somewhere stopped in the nation.
Because there were disputes among the leaders themselves. This doesn't mean, as he said, that these discussions, these delays lead to improve their mistakes. We can see that they were not improving their mistakes anymore. They were just disputing among themselves, they were just fighting, and they were imposing each other's thoughts on each one of themselves.
Also, this helped to making the long decision so that they can improvise their country for a long period of time. It supports a good decision and brief discussion with their ministers that help them to get growth in economic and financial support and make the government more stronger.
And in monarchy, they can take confidential decisions for a long period of time. They can discuss with their ministers and all the things that they want to do. But in democracy, they have a fixed tenure in which they have to talk, discuss and impose the decision. And we cannot always ensure that in this fixed tenure, the things which are taken in mind would be good for the country.
And it is also not sure that the promises they have made will be fulfilled for the people in that tenure.
Most of the representatives make promises before election and they do not imply or work on them after they have been.
So I would like to answer them as they said that the decisions are taken for a long term. So I would like to impose that in a democratic government, they are giving a particular time period to prove themselves. So they also have a terror of the citizens that if they didn't do that good, next time they would be changed. Whereas in monarchy, they don't have a terror of citizens. They know that after the king died, his son or his daughter will be the next ruler. So they don't have any terror
or they also don't take these decisions seriously. Whereas in election or whereas in democratic government, they have a terror, or they also take these decisions very seriously, because if they don't fulfill the needs of the people or the citizens, they knew that next time after a particular period of time they will be changed if they don't do their work seriously.
In monarchy, the king only perfect central level, but not look at the small level. Can you please justify it is better?
As it has true that the king only has a centralized power, but also in democracy, the president is also considered as a centralized power of a democratic country. Hence, the crises that were on the ground level are being confronted by the ministers that were appointed by the king, so that they can directly tell their problem to the king through the process of ministration.
And as Akasha said that in democracy, it is not, in monarchy there is not much development because they just focus on their goals. So it is not always necessary.
We can observe in the medieval history, in the Mughal era, there was lot of development by the Mughals, and the Indian GDP was itself having 23% of the whole GDP. So we can observe how monarchy impacts more as compared to democracy. There are a lot of countries that say that they are democratic, but they are not developed. So for development and growth of the country, monarchy is better.
As you told that the Mughal era was a successful era. But according to our knowledge, the last emperor of the Mughal era was not successful to rule their citizens. The next person came, that was the Britishers, to rule over India. They don't have their own opinions in the Mughal era. Like the last emperor didn't questions on the perspective of the Britishers. He just gave the opportunity to them to rule over us, which made a big exploitation on the citizens of India.
And also in monarch, like you have said, Mughal era. So in Mughal era, monarch like Muhammad Shah Rabi'ullah and Ahmad Shah, they did their own benefit. Like if they thought that they are benefiting, so they gave the territory of Sindh to Ahmad Shah Abdali for their own benefits. And it was in the Mughal, it was in the monarch era. So they were in monarchy, they were thinking about their own benefit rather than the benefits of the citizens.
As the lecturer said, that in democracy, the prime minister is also considered as a centralized power. But according to me, in democracy, the prime minister takes the final decisions, but the power is also divided among the lower levels. All the levels under the prime ministers take decisions, and then once they all come to the conclusion that this decision is correct, or that this decision might need some changes. After the changes, they go to the prime minister to give prime ministers that they are like going to change these or apply these rules. After that, if the prime minister thinks that these rules are good or not good, according to that, he or she will take those rules or decline. But whereas in monarchy, if the minister says that they want to apply a rule, and the kings, in the monarchy, the kings does not take their ministers or the families under them very seriously, as in democracy, the prime minister and the ruling party has a chance that they might be elected or not be able to rule the country next time because they might lose. But whereas in monarchy, the king does not have any such restrictions that he might be asked to come down to the throne and give it to someone else who can take it.
As Pragati and Akasha has asked that the Mughal emperor was not that much sufficient for our country, it is not compulsory that every time the monarch is good for the country. Sometimes the democracy is also not known as accountable form of government, such like North Korea and China. In China, there is a one-party system, and in North Korea, the dictatorship is held after the democratization of the country. And Ruchir has asked from us that the Prime Minister can be changed each after 5 years. That's why they form good decisions, and they are afraid that after 5 years they are not going to be promoted by the citizens. In monarch also, the citizens can protest for the king if they do not like the decision that were made by the king, and they can directly tell to the king that they do not want to support his ideas of king, and he should do work on it. Also, I would like to ask Ruchir, in democracy the decision making is slow as compared to monarch, because there are both parliament houses that take 5 months of time to make a particular decision. But in monarch, the decision is taken as quick as much possible, and they are also more appropriate as compared to democracy.
As Aditya asked, that in democracy, the parliaments take time. It's because the parliaments consider the problem, the causes, and the advantages that anything that they are trying to promote. They will always check what disadvantage that particular article or any law can cause on the citizens of that country. They always check that if the citizens would be happy or they would not be happy. That's why it takes time for in democracy to make any decisions, because they eliminate almost all the issues.
Now
that
I
can
would also like to add on that just Aditya said, and also his teammates, that there are quick decisions in monarchy, whereas there are slow decision making in democracy. I would like to say, even if there are quick decision makers in the monarchy, it doesn't always mean that the decision they have taken is correct, because they don't know about the citizens. They have just taken the decision. Whereas in democratic form of government, there are many people who have given their opinion to that particular decision, and after that, which many people agreed on that decision, now that has been taken. Whereas somewhere in monarchy, most of the time there is a situation in which the citizens of that particular ruler did not agree to the decision, and they also don't have any option to change that particular decision.
Now I would like to ask a question to Aditya. In the Middle East, the non-Muslims had to pay more taxes than the Muslim did. In Indian subcontinent, two wars imposed on religious basis. The non-Muslims were imposed lot of taxes.
As Kajal has asked the question that the non-Muslims has to pay more taxes in the Middle East, because sometimes, as I have told before, that the monarch is not that like democracy, that it is not capable, that every time the monarch is as good as we think so. And also same for the democracy, it is also not good that as we think so. The Ruchir also asked me that the slow decision making process of the democratic country. Due to the slow making process of democratic country, the development of a country economical and financially gets slowed. And as Akasha said that even getting quick decisions, the monarchs sometimes make the bad decisions. So I also would like to give an example of democratic country, that the law that were made for the farmers just in 2020, in which the government had places some unconditional laws for the farmers, that the farmers were not unhappy. That making the procedure of that making law also take the 5 months, and it was not the appropriate position of a particular law.
At last, I would like to ask a question, a simple question. Is democracy a trustworthy government?
So, as Suhani asked the question that is democracy a trustworthy government, I would like to say that in democracy, it has to be trustworthy, because the parties have the terror that they could be changed. So they have to be trustworthy. If they are not trustworthy, that how do you know that it is trustworthy? Because it cannot be changed. And I would like to ask them a final question which I have, that if monarchy is that much good, the final question I would like to ask is that if monarchy is that much good, why it is not in many of the countries in the world? And just you have said, you have taken example very much time, which is modern monarchy. It is also taking some points from our democratic government. It is not modern monarchy points. For one point in modern monarchy is constitution, which the constitution itself is in the democratic government. So if you think that monarchy is that much good and it is that much good form of a government, why many of the countries in the world have adopted for democratic government in comparison to monarchic government?
As Natasha has told that monarchy is not that much trustworthy form of government. So I would like to told that the monarchy has a royal family who has considered the kings from later on many years. That's why they win the trust of their citizens, so that they can perform a good and utility kind of a work. After that, Akasha has asked that why the most of the countries do not follow the monarchy. I would like to tell it is a 60-40 ratio of our world that do not follow monarchy. The constitution monarchy is the form of government in which the head of a state is a king, but the ruling of that state is done by a prime minister which has been elected by the people. So monarchy also gives opportunity to people to get elected their particular representative. For example, in Britain, the royal family is also the head of the state, but the election in Britain are regularly held. Thus the Rishi Sunak is the prime minister of Britain.
I would like to add on to this. Akasha said that why monarchy is not all over the world. I think people often think that monarchy is like dictatorship, but it is not true. Monarchy is a different form of government, as we have told you earlier. Monarchy is often considered as dictatorship, but monarchical government can also have constitution. There is no restriction that constitution is just a rule book, and it is nowhere said that democratic country can only have that constitution. Monarchical government can also have their rule books. So having constitution do not prove that it is the idea of democracy. It is just the rule book.
Also, as we said that in monarchy they are adopting democratic features, so it is not mentioned anywhere that democracy had adopted the constitution first. It can be seen in the past times in the history that monarchs had adopted constitution because they thought for the well-being of their people.
At last, I would like to ask a question from my position that in democracy, any citizens having a criminal record can be also elected as a consistent of the election. Thus, it also harms the citizenship as if it can threaten the elections due to its use of its power.
I would like to answer that. So, as Aditya said that any criminal record, a person having a criminal record can be an elector, so no, it's not true. There are also some criteria to also stand in an election. There are also criteria, and as Twinkle said that monarchy has adopted constitutional divisions because they want well-being. So I would like to remind you that in the starting you have said that in monarchy there is the ruler and the next ruler will be decided until the ruler has died. You said it was the basis of monarchy, but in modern monarchy you are saying that now they have adopted elections, like in Britain we are having elections. So don't you think that elections were a part of a democratic government rather than the form of monarchic government? Because elections and constitutions are the key points to a democratic government, not the key points of the monarchic government. Because as you have stated in the beginning that the next ruler is chosen when the previous ruler has died.
And now representative can be changed if the citizens doesn't like it. For the development, they will choose the better one.
Yeah, obviously we have said earlier that people in monarchical form of government can also protest against the king, and we have seen in the history that many a times people protest against the king and the king was abdicated from the throne, right? So it is not necessary that monarch cannot be changed, but it is a predictable form of government who is ready to govern the country, who is trained in such a way.
As Akasha told us that the election and the constitution are also the main component of the democratic country. I would like to remind her that in the ancient period of time, the farmans that were made by the Mughal rulers are also consequently to the citizens, so that they can easily describe their decisions and tell the people about their particular rights, so that they can put on the economic problem and crisis directly to the king without any